Good morning and welcome, everybody. We're going to get this started. My name is Ken Ryan with Wallace Carlson Printing. You have joined the PIM, Printing Industry Midwest, and PIA Mid-America Financial Executives Council presentation on cultivating value and enhancing actions from financials. Please note that all attendees are initially placed in mute mode to ensure a quality recording. We encourage comments and questions during the program. Please type them in the Q&A or chat field at the bottom of your screen, and they will be asked at the appropriate time. The Financial Executives Council is coordinated by leaders in both the North Central and South Central regions of the United States. They guide the programs and the content offered 6 times per year. The focus is on financial reporting and compliance, data management and security, and financial policies and planning. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that our National Wage and Benefit Survey closes this Friday. We ask that you participate. Workforce challenges continue to impact all manufacturing, including print. These reports provide extensive year-over-year data to assist you with recruitment, retention, and benefit management. I would like to introduce our Financial Executive Council co-chairs. We have Carl Nathy with Myers Printing. We have Ryan Wagoner with Action Mailing and Printing. We have Matt Wills with LB Carlson and Teresa Campbell with PIA Mid-America. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Ralph Williams. He has over 25 years of leadership experience in the printing industry. He's served as president of 3 printing businesses with ownership in 2. Dr. Ralph entered academia in 2009 as a management lecturer. He earned his doctorate in business and administration from Kennesaw State University, and he's now a professor of management at Middle Tennessee State University. He teaches strategy, entrepreneurial financial management, and other management courses. Dr. Ralph works with regional printing industries like us to conduct and provide industry studies. Dr. Ralph has authored over 50 printing industry articles and reports, and he shared them with the Printing Association's newsletters and magazines. He has spoken at multiple association events, and in addition, he's a peer-reviewed academic journals have been published in over 30 research papers. With that being said, Dr. Ralph, I'm going to let you take over.
That's not a smart move, Ken. Let me take over.
No, I wish everyone luck then.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that bio pretty well. I got an introduction. By the way, students call me Dr. Ralph. Now you can just call me Ralph, but they started calling me that a few years ago, and I'll sign emails, Dr. Ralph, to students. Again, I led 3 printing businesses, entered academia in 2009, had earned my doctorate in 2015. Now I'm a full professor at Middle Tennessee State. Here's the point. I teach, I engage my industry, and I do academic research. I just love it. I love it. My wife says, if we talk about me retiring, she said, "Why? You love what you do," and it's great. Now I'm saying this in my office when my colleagues hear me say this, it bothers them a little bit. I'll say this is the easiest job I've ever had, and and they kind of shake their heads a little bit. So we do the printing industry. Can you see, Ken? Can you see um my arrow?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you can see a different studies that we've done with those printing industry performance and insights. Um, and what's great about this is that just let me talk, some of these that are really struck me, the importance of marketing planning and how that affects good sales management. We found multiple studies where you see a combination of strategic planning, goal setting, and financial analysis that positively affects uh, positively affects firm performance. There's a relationship there. Uh, employee branding and employee value proposition. That employee value proposition, uh, that is a mission. What do we provide our employees and our working with my HR colleagues? Um, we found that it's so important. You can try to brand yourself as a good employer, but you have to have a mission of what you do. It was interesting a few years ago, 3 years ago, when paper was upset. We looked at some effective supply chain management tools. My supply chain professors, they loved looking at that and what was going on. And so there's kind of synergy. We try to bring good actual knowledge to printing company leaders. Um, and we also want to add to the value that associations are bringing to their members, and we also work together with my research colleagues, and it's just there's just synergy. We work together well. If anybody has any comments about our reports, what we do, or suggestions, I'm all ears. So here's what we're talking about today. Oh, here's our goal: provide printing company leaders with actionable knowledge. That's a big thing. Okay, this is again, we're with the Financial Executive Council of these two associations, Printing Industry Association of Mid-America and Printing Industry Midwest. So the title is Cultivating Value Enhancing Actions from Financials. What key words do you see there, Ken and Matt, in that title?
Well, I see value enhancing. And one of our big buzzwords that we used is value added. What kind of money can we make off of the manufacturing process and kind of exclude the materials that come along with it? How can we sell what we do?
Mm, good points. Good points. Any other key words there?
Just action items, like what are enhancing actions, right? What
Yes.
can you do?
Yeah, what do you do from this? Using the financial statements. The word that I liked when I was working on this is cultivating. If you think about cultivating, you're preparing the fields to grow crops. You're cultivating, you're drawing from. So I like that. So cultivating value enhancing actions from financials. You're determining a path forward to enhance your performance. To do that is vital to your firm's success. How is exploring possible paths forward related to good leadership? Ken, Matt, you got thoughts?
Well, you need to give your employees guidance on
Yes,
what they need to do in order to achieve the goals set forth by the company.
yes. Yeah, a vision. Oh, I love that. That's not in my notes, but I love that. Anything else? Good point. Prompts innovative thinking. When you're looking at those paths, uh, lets you see what's in the inside. And that's C is capitalized. You want to back up and see what's going on. And you want to avoid hubris by looking at the financials with open eyes. I consulted for a company one time. They were they were the strongest printing company in their region from a quality and service standpoint. Their brand was remarkable. However, suddenly they had trouble making payroll checks, writing payroll checks. They didn't see. They had the hubris. They were so strong from a brand standpoint, they didn't realize what had snuck up on them. And then also Ken's point, giving a vision, giving direction, that's important. So if determining the right path forward is a challenge, why is it a challenge?
Well, I see that you don't know what's out there. I mean, you might have a vision, but meeting those goals doesn't always happen. Sales is, a challenge, and sometimes you have things beyond your control that happen in the marketplace that will force you to change course in the middle of the year.
In the same way, you use the word external, Ken. I agree completely, but also internal. Are you seeing what's going on internally? Uh, also, are we seeing it without bias? And I applied a bias when I was leading printing companies and some of the things I did. Um, I'll tell you some stories, but yeah, I applied bias. Um, Sometimes there's so many things to attack, but what is most important? What should we work on? And then what should we specifically do to attack that? That's a challenge. This is a big key. Do we have time to work on this? And this is talked a lot in some research, but small business owners wear so many hats. They're typically involved in sales and operations and human resources. They don't have um, the same kind of staff that a large business do. So finding the finding the time to work on it is important, or it's a challenge for small business owners. This is a slide from my strategy class, and you see the end result there is forming the strategy, a vision of where we need to go, a mission, looking at different options and selecting the best strategy. But the beginning of that, related to what Ken said, is looking at the external environment and looking at the internal environment. And that internal environment you can see somewhat by looking at the financials. These are some statements from research papers. The effective use and accurate interpretation of financial statements lead to the viability of any business, especially small and medium-sized enterprises. What words there strike you?
I see interpretation.
Yes. And a theme that we'll continue to talk about. We're not talking about doing the accounting. Matt does the accounting, but he's got to help us, and we've got to interpret what we're seeing there. Okay, Matt, does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
One thing,
Um,
Dr. Ralph, one thing that we would look at is year over year. If you see any,
oh,
seismic changes, or not even seismic changes, but, you know, changes, it's like, why did this go up or why did this go down? What did we do right? What did we do wrong?
yes, yes. I like the word the effective. Effective means you're doing it in a way to produce resources, leads to the viability of any business, but that scholar said especially for small business, small medium-sized enterprises, that gives you a competitive advantage, and we'll talk about that near the end. Here's another one. Decisions are grounded on the ability to comprehend financial statements. Comprehend, uh, grounded on, and comprehend. Those are great words. And then the last, successful small business leaders make effective use of financial data to make good decisions. That's that's important. And again, it's not doing the accounting; it's drawing information from the financial statements.
Yeah. And now, not all of the principals that look at the financial statements have financial backgrounds. And so my job was to interpret the financials and field questions on, what did this mean? Why did our paper purchases go up? Why did they go down?
Yes. Yeah.
Why is energy up? So they would see something that would, pique their interest, and then we have to research. And sometimes I'd say, give me a second to research it and I'll get back to you.
Yes. Yes. That's drawing information from it. Now that's my EBITDA T-shirt, and I've shown that when I've spoken in association events like this, and I'll show it in class. My son worked for me in two printing companies, and out of the blue, he gave me that T-shirt for Father's Day. EBITDA, that's the way I say it. And I teach entrepreneurial financial management, again, it's not, that course is not about accounting. We draw in entrepreneurial majors and minors who do not have accounting and finance backgrounds, and we go through financial statements and learn how to draw knowledge from them. So anyway, EBITDA, that's my t-shirt. So cultivating actions from financials is about using the financial data to help you strategically plan a path forward. You need to have a little bit of a systematic approach to do this. And that's why I bring in John Boyd and his OODA loop. Now, I was introduced to John Boyd by my dissertation chair, Torsten Pieper, and I read a long book about him. John Boyd, developed this decision-making model after his dogfighting, flying an airplane in the Korean War. They called him a Pentagon. After the Korean War, he went to work in the Pentagon, and he became a Pentagon game changer. His statement was, do you want to be someone or do you want to do something? By be someone, you're doing what the higher ranked officials want. To do something, you're finding out what needs to be done and doing it right. So it's an interesting story. This is his OODA loop, and it begins with observe, where you collect the current information and the data that will help you develop an accurate perception. Observe. You're pulling the data, not looking at specific lines. You're wanting to get a good wide look at the data so that you can get a good perception of what's going on, an accurate perception. Then you want to orient. You want to analyze the information and use it to update your current reality. I like that. Update your current reality. I want to see what's going on. And it's a process. You orient and then later you reorient. You decide. After you observe, you draw the information from it, analyze it, then you decide what is the course of action, and then you act. You have to follow through on your decisions. And you notice this is a circle, so it's important to cycle back to the observe stage without bias. You want to make this an ongoing process. My key in the companies I led was when things between Christmas and New Year's Eve, when things got a little silent around with customers and a lot of people off and that sort of thing, I would hunker down in my office and work through this process. Not to the level that I teach now, but it was a big thing. I recycled every year. Businesses have implemented OODA-like processes, including Dell, Netflix, BMW, and Pepsi. They've applied similar processes like this. Sports teams have also applied it. The Seattle Seahawks did when they were really playing well under the previous coach. I don't remember his name. And then you remember Moneyball, the Oakland Athletics. That's very much like the OODA loop of observing the data and deciding and acting. So I will provide an example of using your OODA loop processes to analyze your financials and find a path. Now, is my example perfect? I made this even bigger this morning. No, it's not. Is my example a perfect fit for all printing companies? I'll say again, no. But it's an example of applying an OODA loop process in financial analysis and strategic planning. Ken, any problems? Can you see everything? Am I speaking too fast? Anything? Do I,
You're
any
doing
problem?
just fine. Now I'm thinking about making the loop. I liken this to the monthly cycle. So you do your financials and start it all over and do it again. You observe,
Yeah.
you orient, decide, and act, and the next month comes and do it all over again.
Yes, yes. Okay, starting to observe, you want to collect the information and the data. You're wanting to study and look at these numbers. This is more than just financial statements, okay? It's not just a statement, it's a tool, if you will. You're seeing these financials as tools. To see it like a dashboard, like a sports team, is what you're doing when you're observing. Uh, so collecting the information. I've got an example here. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you see that we have an income statement here, different categories, if you will, and we've included from some benchmarking studies what are the high performers producing. And then we look at our last few years. Here's what we look like in 2021, 2022, and then 2023. And now I've got percentages of like the percentage and change of revenue and the percentage of revenues so I can compare those and see what's going on. I also have the same thing for our balance sheet, our assets, long-term assets, long-term assets, current liabilities and long-term liabilities, and equity, and then different financial ratios that I'm looking at. So I've developed this dashboard, if you will, so I can look at it. I've gathered this data. This is the first point, to gather the data. Ken or Matt, any questions or any? Again, this is merely an example of something you might pull together to look at. Ken or Matt, any?
I have a comment. We would do this and we compare ourselves through the PIA ratio study.
Oh,
And I miss it, but it was important. And I still use those data points.
wow.
And now we were a little different because we were employee owned. So we had some other costs that weren't normal to just a regular for-profit business. So there were some things, and we knew that was going to skew our percentages. But we still, when you look at the paper, we wanted to be competitive because that isn't going to change, in the market we're in. Where we got in is some of the administrative costs to manage that plan. But no, this is super important. And, if you can find some of the old books, I highly recommend, setting up your financials to do that and compare yourself to the market. And that also cycles back to participating in the market studies. It is essential so that we can get this data and get it out there.
Thank you for saying that, Ken. Matt, one point I'm making with some printing company leaders is have your accounting firm more than just handing you documents. Talk with them and maybe let them help you build these kind of comparisons.
Yeah, building comparisons, whether it's benchmarking against yourself in prior years where maybe you were more profitable, or benchmarking against industry peers if you're able to even get percentages. Anything to compare what you're doing is often always better, and gives you a little light into what maybe can be improved upon or what you're excelling in. So anybody with industry experience should be able to help kind of guide you to um, start benchmarking somehow, some way.
Yes, I think use your accountant to help you get this look or build this look yourself. But work together and understand it is key. Um, okay, so there's the example we looked at. it's interesting. I read in a research piece that some academics say you only want to look at just a few numbers, but I don't think that fits with observe. You need to look at the big picture. You need to look at the big picture. If you don't, you'll miss something. You agree, Matt?
I think looking at the big picture is great. I tend to say if you do too much analysis, it leads to paralysis, right? If you're looking at a ton of numbers. So what are maybe the five KP or say eight KPIs or performance indicators in any given section that you're looking at? Maybe look at the high level to start with, and then from there, if you're looking at value added sales or things of that nature, maybe look at only a few number ratios in there. So overall, you could be looking at a lot more. However, you're not trying to generate 50, a lot of formulas or a lot of analysis overall. It's specific to each section.
Well, let me blow this at you. Maybe looking at the big picture once a year and then looking at those particular things that you find you need to focus on during the year.
Dr. Rolf, we had one of the participants comment in the chat. It says another great comparison is against your plan, your annual plan or
Yes,
budget. How are you
yes,
how are you doing versus where you want to go? Even better is performance against, let's say, a 5-year plan.
yes.
Can you speak to that?
I will. I can't add anything to it. That's yes. What is your budget? How are you performing related to your budget? Yes, yes. In fact, I'll mention that in just a second.
Dr. Ralph,
Hold on. Kenny, Matt, I'm Ralph. Okay. All right.
sorry,
No, my students call me Dr. Ralph. So
piggyback,
yeah.
piggybacking on what you said, we had a client one time where at the end of the year we'd come through and go, your labor is too high as on an annual basis compared to your peers. And then we help them identify,
Oh,
maybe a monthly reporting of tracking headcount to what they should be. So they were doing it on a monthly basis. They were looking at maybe their headcount, but overall, the high level was my labor is too high. So now we need to develop maybe a dashboard for our monthly reporting to help so we don't get to the end of the year and go, our labor is too high again, or our headcount is too high again. So I agree with you, like looking at the higher level things and then developing key indicators that you can micromanage multiple times throughout the year.
that fits perfectly with some study that we're doing, and we're thinking about doing our next study is non-financial key performance indicators. So again, and I think Ken and Matt and I agree here. Maybe once a year, looking at the big picture, drawing it in, and then working on looking at it at the things you want to attack during the year at different times. Um, so my example fits includes financial benchmarks from higher performers and the firm's numbers from the 2 previous years. What else might you apply to the comment that somebody made in the chat? Previous budgets or your budget. I think that's very relevant. Yes. Um, and if you and we're seeing a lot of M&As in the industry, you might include the previous company's results in that look. Now, let me ask you this: is this an art or science?
Art.
Ken says art. Matt,
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's a
I'm
it's an
worried.
art form. It's an art form, but it has to be rooted in the scientific numbers. I mean, if you're trying to skew something, then it's an art. You can make anything say whatever you want it to say, but it still has to be based in reality.
Yes. So my answer to this, going along with you, Matt, and Ken, you'll agree. Yes, it's an art and a science. It's an art and a science, if you will. So the next thing you want to do is orient. You want to analyze the information, orient. You want to align or position something relative to the points of the compass, or that's a definition for it. You're wanting to orient. You want to find the points. You're wanting to draw the here. reorient each year. You want to work effectively with your accountants, and I'm really trying to sell that, Matt, more than them handing you the statements. And it sounds like y'all are doing that, Matt. You want to learn, and I use this phrase in my class all the time. Um, you want to learn the language, if you will. You want to learn the language. You're not trying, printing company leaders, you're not trying to become an accountant. I can't do debits and credits, but you want to learn the language to help diagnose what's going on. Okay, here's another example. So from that list, we came to these, and I won't go through every one of them. Uh, I'm sorry, my phone's making noise. So we look all categories of materials and outside services increasing as a percentage of revenue. All materials and outside services are significantly above the high performers. My cost of goods sold is increasing and above high performers. Now this is, and in going back to this company, this example, this is not a bad company. You can see that they've between 14 and 12% EBITDA. I'd say that's pretty good. Matt, Ken, would y'all say that's pretty good?
Yeah, it's
That's
nothing to complain
ex-
about.
Matt?
Nothing to complain about.
Yeah, yeah. But in doing this, you're seeing some other things. Payroll and other factory costs are increasing. Uh, our admin costs are increasing as a part. It's increasing, and it's above high performers. Um, our sales, all sales and marketing categories are decreasing. You see what you're doing in orienting is you just gathering what are the points I can draw from this? What are the points? I'm not making decisions. I'm just orienting, trying to draw performance.
but by doing this, you can also now start drilling a little bit deeper into those categories and then come up with the reasons why you've got these on your orient list.
Um, Ken, how did you know what I was going to next?
I didn't. I'm just lucky.
The next thing is, oh, again, look at the numbers. You're wanting to get points from the numbers. So next you got to decide, Ken. We got to determine a course of action. We want to consider multiple options and then include a specific path, who's responsible, and goals and that sort of thing. And I've got another example. You see that these things, I won't go through all the details of this, but you see, we looked at this, all categories of materials, cost goods sold, gross profit decreasing, and we said, my goodness, those things, our leadership team needs to say, what are our target groups? What value do we bring them? And is it considering can we merit a slight increase in pricing to accommodate this? Um, we need to work on our marketing strategy so that we can price a little bit better. Consider a slight increase and try to complete this in 2 months. Assign somebody to look at our estimating system. Are we accurate? It has our markup of as our materials and markup of materials and services changed, you know, those kind of things. And someone will report that in a month. Assign somebody to review if we've benefited from paying vendors faster and report in a month. Again, our days and accounts payables is dropping. So from that, we've got this series of actions we're going to take to address that group of of issues. And the same thing with other points as we go through it. And if anybody wants these documents, I'll share them. And again, they're just an example that I made up. Any questions or points, Matt or Ken?
I've
No,
got to, I'd say continue.
I think I see this, I think it's important to write this stuff down with your team, to write to write it down with your team and do that sort of thing. This is interesting from a performance book that I was reading, and there's a few points are going to come from that. Um, they said maybe point to just two or three critical things that you need to address. Excuse me, not two or three, 3 to 5 critical things. Um, it was interesting. You pull your leadership to team, you give them the list, and you agree as a leadership team what are the 3 to 5 critical points we need to address. In doing that, and really the researchers pointed toward 3. The researchers pointed to uh, they did case studies with companies, larger companies, and they said when the team pulled together and looked at the potential options and they picked the top 3, they agreed there was unity among the team to as to what they need to do. And then they would meet every quarter to discuss those critical points and the progress made. So you agree what the critical points are, and then as a team you get a path, determine a path, and then you meet uh, and you pull together. This provides focus and unity from this analyzing the financials. You put focus and unity in your team. Okay, this is an interesting, you're going to see this from me more. Um, this is called the performance tree. And you'll notice you've got a tree, and the roots of the tree are non-financial performance KPIs, such as operational efficiency, customer retention, new customer addition, customer satisfaction, employee learning, different things like that. And there's a bunch more. These roots of the tree create the blossoms of the tree, which are financial performance. Net profit margin, gross profit margin, EBITDA, those kind of things. Those, you see the performance tree, the roots cause the blossoms. It's interesting. I was reading this and this really struck me. And I wrote just a few sentences describing this tree, gave it to Chat GPT and said, can you do a diagram? And boom, I mean, in 2 seconds, it gave me this. And I love it. And you'll see it from me a lot more. Any comments, Ken or Matt?
I didn't realize what a great artist you are.
I am not.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
It's just really resonating with me. And you'll see it from me in coming reports and that sort of thing. Um, so there's the diagram again. Healthy roots, the non-financial performance, produce visible blooms, which is the financial results. When you have operational efficiency, it helps your EBITDA. So this is where we're looking at this in our next study. We're trying to find a relationship between these 3 where you analyze financial statements. It points you to the non-financial measures to improve, which improves financial performance. So that's what we're looking at in our next study. And I've actually started interviewing some of the some printing company. I've interviewed 3 printing company leaders concerning these issues. Now, non-financial performance drives financial performance, but financial analysis points to the non-financial factors that we need to address. For instance, if we're not happy with uh, our gross profit margin, it may point us to more operational efficiency or employee training or trying to increase the efficiency. See, this will point us back to this. These blossoms will point us to the roots that we need to look at. Okay, the last point is to act. You want to commit and engage in those actions. You want to have a path to accomplish each action. You want to set who's responsible for managing and completing each action. You want to set times and dates for assessing the process. Where are we? What do we need to change? You need to apply those actions in your budget. And it's interesting how few companies budget, how few small businesses budget. And it's interesting that even over the last few decades, with the addition of the accounting things and Excel and QuickBooks and all that sort of thing, the proportion of companies that are budgeting has not increased. So you apply those actions and you put them in a budget, communicate with your team, your entire leadership team, the action path, maybe your entire company, and you celebrate accomplishments with your team. Recognize achievers. Uh, do positive reinforcement. And we did this. We would meet in the last company I led, we would meet between shifts about once a month. We would talk about key things we're trying to improve. We would point to people who were really helping us in those areas. And that was really effective. Now, little changes can make a significant difference. Ken or Matt, are y'all familiar with the book Atomic Habits?
I am not.
No,
Matt,
no.
it's a great book, but they make an example from the 1990s British cycling team, and I'm a Tour de France fan. My wife and I love to watch it. That cycling team was so bad that bike manufacturers didn't want to sell them bikes. They did not. The bike companies did not want their names on the bikes that team was riding. That says a lot. That says a lot. So they applied a strategy called the aggregation of marginal gains. They looked at seats, uniforms, training, wind tunnel training, individual training approaches, cyclists sleeping, how it was working, and a ton more. They wanted to see anything that would generate a 1% improvement. In 10 years, they won 178 world championships, 66 Olympic or Paralympic gold medals, and 5 Tour de France titles. Related, in the example that I had, if that company put in the changes that we put in our example, their EBITDA would raise from 12.31 to 16.31. That is a 32% increase in EBITDA. Again, little changes can make a difference. The little changes you find in this analysis can make a difference. Does that make sense, Ken and Matt?
Yep.
Definitely.
Okay, OODA is a circle. You got to have an annual plan. Again, and I think this is resonating. I've kind of drew this from our discussion, Ken and Matt. You want to look at an annual big picture, which I did every December in our companies. However, you want to keep looking at the critical issues all through the year. Now, am I quoting y'all right, Ken and Matt?
That is correct.
Yep.
Okay, now we again, I mentioned this when I was talking about our studies. We developed this concept called a comprehensive strategic approach. It's called CSA. I bet we've published 5 papers that have other researchers have cited considering this approach, a comprehensive strategic approach, where if you do the financial analysis, strategic planning, and goal setting together, you will have higher performance. Financial literacy influences the financial attributes, financial behaviors, organizational capabilities, and performance of small and medium-sized enterprises. That fits with this. And I think financial literacy, another quote, financial literacy is a key factor that increases the success of, of small and medium-sized enterprises. Those are from research papers. But again, you look at the analysis, you do the strategic plan, you have a goal. It's a big picture. Now, closing thoughts. Are you an accountant or a finance expert? Well, Ken and Matt are, but most, if not, most are not, most, if not all of your competitors are not. But you don't have to be an accounting or finance printing company leaders. You don't have to be an accounting or finance expert. I'm not. You develop this competitive advantage, the ability to analyze financials. And it was for us. And after studying this, I would have done it much better. uh, you want to you want to grow in your ability to use financial knowledges and make decisions. And it was interesting. I ran those three companies. I could tell you stories how it progressed. But then in consulting for companies later, all through that process of leading the companies in consulting, it was a growing. There was not one best way. It just kind of grew as I went through it. This came to mind. You could use the OODA loop in other areas where you observe, orient, decide, and act. Maybe in your marketing. How are we marketing? And orient, and decide and then act. What about our culture? What is our culture? What do we need to change? What about our leadership approach? Uh, here's closing there. Those are some references. I try not to plagiarize some of the quotes I cited. And that's all of it. Uh, that's all of it. There's my email address. If anybody wants to email me, I am open to talking with any of you printing company leaders. Any chats, Ken?
Not right now, but I want to throw some out there to the whole group. Um, we would do our budget annually. We would not go out past 1 year because our sales forecasts weren't that good. But we would go through and we would do our budget annually. And each month, when I'd complete the financials, I'd do actual versus budget. And then we would sit and we would talk to our management team and we would say, what do you think happened and what can we do
Mm,
to either improve or, say what happened? That orient, observe, diagnose, and then what was the A? I'm missing the A.
act.
Act. So I'd like to throw it out to the group to see how frequently they budget and if they do analyze and go through with their management team to see how they do it. We'll see how that goes. But we would compare our financials to the PIA as well. Whoops, we have one saying our typical operating cadence is annual with the monthly review as well. I would also throw in quarterly
Mm,
reviews and break it down by quarter because some of our business was seasonal.
mm.
Now, this individual saying they would weekly review their KPIs, which is awesome.
I'm assuming they're talking about non-financial KPIs.
Um, I'll let that individual respond, and that's a big yes.
Mm, mm. And again, that's what we're kind of studying right now.
Yeah. Can you speak to what your future uh, studies or analysis are? What you're thinking of going out there and surveying?
Well, this it's interesting. This KPI study, we originally thought we'd do a survey and try to determine which uh, non-financial KPIs were most used in the printing industry and what the higher performers used. However, in studying the concept more, every printing company is different. Everyone is different. You can't say that this list works great for everybody. So what we're doing is we're interviewing, and we want to see if we can find a relationship between that connection of strategic planning, determining KPIs, and then measuring them, if there's a connection with that and performance. And so it's good. And the three interviews we've had, the interviews take about 30 minutes, and all three of those printing company leaders say that they've benefited from that discussion.
Cool. We have had a chat request. Do you mind sharing your tree image? This person wanted to use it with their team.
Ben, can we share the slides um, with
Yes.
those?
Yeah, we'll send out the slides along with the recording.
Okay. Ben, would you like for me to send you those examples those Word documents and the Excel document?
Sure. We will send out anything you're willing to share.
Okay. All right. I'll send you stuff. And Matt, from an accounting standpoint, please take issue with anything that I've said. I'll learn from whatever you say, good man.
No, I think everything you hit, you talked about and discussed, Ralph, was right on point. And observing and making and acting is the hardest part. As long most of the time we see with our business leaders is they don't have accurate financial data, or they are relying on the wrong information. So really understanding the data you're getting is half the battle.
Yes, and I loved what I heard from you saying that you're helping your clients understand.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. Ken, anything else?
At this point, I'm not sure if anyone else on the group chat wants anything else for Dr. Ralph to answer. If not, we'll give you back about 15, 20 minutes of your day. Oh, one thing I do want to share with everybody is stay tuned and follow your local association in September. We're going to have a state of the printing industry discussion, hopefully with Richard Romano. And then
Mm.
in November, we will go and look at the wage and benefit survey. And so we'll break those down. So those will be our next two meetings. I guess we're just glad to have you here with us. And Dr. Ralph, as usual, you did a great job. Thank you
Oh,
very much.
thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a blessing.
No,
To get-
we're blessed to have you with us. So thank you
it
very
is.
much.
It is.
And everyone have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.
See you soon.